Hello everybody. Today I want to talk about class immutability. Our primary focus will be on the constructor of a class, but this concept is very important and I will refer to it in future posts. Today I just want to target one of the advantages of the immutability and how can you build it in Java. What is immutability? Immutability, you can have a definition something like an immutable class defines object that once created never change their value. How do you make sure that your object doesn't change value? What is the first? What is the value in an object? The value in an object it's its state, it's the attributes that you create on your class, and you want to make sure that don't change. And why we will see in a moment. Let's say we have a point private in two-dimensional space final int x private final int y. First, this is the first part. I want to make sure that after I initialize the x, it will not be possible to change. And that's one of the reasons to use the final. If you don't use final, you can defend yourself using other ways in your class, like just building gets, and you should don't have any sets of the attributes, but the final it's like okay, it's protected. Even if you try or someone change your code, it will always stop at when it tries to change the value of x because it's final, or x or y, it's the same thing. Now the importance of the constructor to create a point, and it's an immutable class. It only makes sense to create it if you provide both x and y, right? Otherwise there will be no reason to create this class. It doesn't make any sense to have a point without values. So int x, int y, and you put something like this. And now you just want to make sure that there are no sets. You don't want to change the value. So the only interface that you provide to outside the class would be to generate getters. Okay, I'll say select getters and generate. And that's it. Your class is bulletproof and it's immutable. And why is this important? Let's say I will define a point here. Let's say point 2D, like origin of something. And you want to something like point 2D 0 0. If you think for a while, why what reason could I have to change the coordinates of this point? If I need another point or another position or another coordinate, I will create another point and it will have a different name, like source, target, or the corners of a rectangle or something like that. And other implications that you can get from this, imagine that you want to create a line, and the line will be something like private final again, point 2D, and let's say start, and then you have private final point 2D, the end, and again a line should be immutable as well. So line, and you say point 2D s point 2D end, and you say this start equal s, this end equals e. And again you have the generate gets and setters. Again select getters. And this is the trick. Imagine that you create this line and you say, okay, it's immutable, this line. So if I assign 2 points to the line, okay, the line doesn't change. But the line doesn't change, it's not because you follow these rules to make sure that your class is immutable. Because imagine that it's not final here and you have a set here. So even if you don't change the line with different points, it could I can create a case where I just change the coordinates of one of those points and the line changes. So sometimes it's not because your class it's immutable, that you are sure that everything is immutable. You want to make sure that the class that are aggregated by your immutable class are immutable as well. Otherwise, indirectly, you can change. You can you can change the immutability to something that it's not immutable. You have all the technical parts created, developed, but okay, you have a loophole, or you have a kind of a port open to hacking your immutable class. And another way, or another example that I can give to you, it's when you have collections. Sometimes they say, okay, if you use some collections in Java, you can say list of, and the list of it's always somehow read-only, because behind he has an array, and an array it's immutable. But if the objects inside the list are not immutable, you don't have an immutable collection. You just have immutable positions pointing to objects. It's different. There are a lot of implications and a lot to say about immutability. I believe that you can write the book, and I'm not exaggerating, because you can target good practices, functional programming, distributed environments. When you are passing a value in several objects to make sure that it doesn't change, you want to serialize, and the serializing make sure the object is always the same. Sometimes you use versions to make sure that, but there are implications when you build a class, like you want to make sure that you override the equals, the hash code, and the hash code is the same. There are a lot of say about immutable, but today I just want to target, since this series at this time it's only about the constructors, the importance of the constructors. Can I create something like this? It will be a good practice. Of course, it will not, because it allows me to create. It will not be possible because of the final, but if I want a constructor like this, I have to remove the final. Sometimes this can happen in your code if this class is used, for instance, to deserialization. But in that case, maybe you should have a different class to deserialize, and then copy the values to an immutable class like this one. Otherwise, you can suffer a lot of problems in your code, at least these side effects, like the one I show you about the line. If I can change a point here, the line will not be the same. It's someone defined the line as immutable, and I can somehow hacking it to not be immutable. So I hope you like it. See you in the future posts. Thanks.